chapter 5. We are now in types of mediation. Types of mediation. Don't forget, when we say mediation, mediation is simply an amicable approach to resolving conflict. You could have self-mediation, that's the one you do by yourself using the skills you are learning here in this lecture series. Or where you have a third party called the mediator, helping you to facilitate the amicable dispute resolution process using the same skills that we are discussing and sharing in this lecture series. How to resolve a conflict. So let's read. The mediation, the direct mediation. Forgive me, types of mediation. There are basically two types of mediation: the direct mediation and the mediated conference. The same principles govern both, but the difference is the method of conducting them. The direct mediation. Direct mediation is the ordinary mediation process where the mediator mediates directly with the disputants. Our discussion below under the heading, the mediation process, focuses mainly on the direct or ordinary mediation process. However, as we have indicated, the same principles govern all mediation. Some of the steps taken in direct mediation are also to be found in the mediated conference. For example, the introduction stage is basically the same, so also are the opening statements as well as the summary of parties' views. Let's go and then explain some of these things in more detail. Mediated conference. Some disputes require a variation of mediation that I call mediated conference. This has also been called mini trial. That's what most Americans know them as. They call them mini trial. Executive tribunal, that's what Center for Effective Dispute Resolution UK, that's what they will call it. Formalized settlement conference is what my learned senior, Philip Norton, would call it. Philip Norton QC, my old boss, that's what he would call it. Now, like I said, I call it the mediated conference. The mediated conference can be defined as a private, consensual proceedings where counsel for each party to a dispute makes a truncated presentation of his or her best case before the top official with settlement authority for each side, and usually also a neutral third party advisor. At the conclusion of this exchange, which usually lasts a day or two, the principals from both sides who have authority attempt to settle the underlying dispute. If they are unable to do so, the advisor, the neutral advisor or neutral or mediator, renders a non-binding opinion as to the probable litigated resolution of the specific legal, factual, and evidentiary issues, as well as the probable overall court outcome of the dispute. Armed with additional data, the disputants enter into further confidential settlement negotiation in an attempt to reach a mutually acceptable agreement. Okay, I think it's pretty clear, but let me just speak to the mediated conference aspect. This is the second type of mediation. So it's ideal for governments, states between themselves or just generally corporations, so basically big corporations. So you have counsel for each party present at the mediator conference at the meeting. And then also present will be the representatives of each company or each country or each corporation that has authority to bind its organization or its principles, or its overall principles. Now, then present is a neutral third party. I will call him a mediator to the third party. Now, also what happens, each counsel for each party makes his or her presentation to the panel. After each counsel has made their best presentation on the conflict, how it arose, where they are, what should be the way forward, what should be the mediated way forward or negotiated way forward. The principals of the organizations involved, the people that have authority to bind their group, business, or country, or community, now work out a resolution, they negotiate an amicable resolution. Now, if they're able to strike an agreement, the mediation or mediated conference ends there. But if they don't, then the neutral third party, the advisor, the mediator, may render a non-binding opinion. It's very critical, very important. Non-binding opinion as to the probable litigated resolution of the specific legal, factual, and evidentiary issues, as well as the probable overall court outcome of the dispute. Now, so that is the third step. So the principals now look at this opinion, this non-binding opinion, and enter into more negotiation. So that they could see if at that point they can reach a mutually agreed acceptable agreement. So that's how the process works. A mediated conference presupposes a dispute between two, I'm reading from the book again. A mediated conference presupposes a dispute between two non-natural persons, e.g., a government or a company. Senior executives or officials, probably, those who have not dealt with the dispute before, represent the disputants, the corporate disputants. This corporate decision maker sits on a panel with the mediator. The panel listens to the parties' different perspectives of the dispute as presented by other representatives of the parties who are more familiar with the dispute. After being addressed and given clarifications, the panel retires into a private session and works out a solution. It is still mediation, so it is flexible, and further private or joint clarification and fact-finding may continue to enable the panel to arrive at a workable solution. When one is found, it is signed as an agreement, the conference closes. Well, actually, before reading, I already explained this aspect. But the point to emphasize is that it is flexible, so it's not. They don't have to say they must stop if they could, as long as there's still an opportunity to, as long as there's a possibility of a mediated agreement. They keep working at it. They can decide to close for the day, come back another day. They could spend a week trying to work this. And the more complex the dispute, the more time they probably would need to spend on it. So just to emphasize that it's flexible. Flexibility is very, very critical and important in mediation generally. And the mediator conference is not exact. I think we can stop here for today. I think we're beginning to get into how the steps you take, the general steps. I mean, these are broad brushes we are painting. So it's as we go on, we get into more details. And by the time we are in chapter 10, you should have a firm grasp of what, how to effectively go into a conflict and appropriately resolve it. You should, by the end of this lecture series, be able to have on your fingertips, almost instinctive steps that you take from entering into conflict to the end. I mean, without necessarily remembering what the terms are. The terms are not as important as the actual steps we take. So if you go through the process from beginning to the end successfully, you've done your good job as a good mediator. So that's not just critical. It's developing the spirit of mediation. So that's why I'm hoping that we were able to pass across. And once you get it, and you can move from one conflict to the other. It doesn't matter what the nature of the conflict is. You will be successful. Of course, without forgetting that the parties own the process. So the fact that they don't agree at the end of your process to sign an agreement doesn't mean you have failed. I mean, it's what I'm more interested in. That's the best practice is how you conduct yourself and how you conduct the proceedings. It's more important than the outcome. The parties own the outcome and they take responsibility for the outcome. But if you play your role as a mediator, as a facilitator, it's more likely than not that the parties would come to an agreement that is acceptable to both of them. We just finished right now the lecture 19 in the series titled How to Resolve a Conflict. And tomorrow we'll continue in lecture 20 of How to Resolve a Conflict lecture series. Thank you again for joining me. It's been nice discussing with you. Please keep posting your comments and endeavor to get a copy of the book, and whichever way you can. I mean, as I've said before, if you have a Kindle, you can read this book free of charge. If you don't, then you may need to get a soft copy or a hard copy. It's available online on Amazon. Thanks once again, and I'll see you tomorrow.